Hi everyone, I'm Brian. I frequently get asked questions about taking leaf cuttings of begonias, the Rex types, Begonia masoniana, the Iron Cross begonia here. They're quite easy to grow from leaf cuttings, as long as you know how. First off, we'll need some equipment. So I like to have either a nice sharp pair of scissors or a sharp pair of secateurs for doing the cutting portion of things. I like to have a chopstick handy, which is great for the potting up portion that comes along later. Also, need to have a nice seedling flat with some nice good quality seed starting mix. This one's a sort of peat-based grit mix. Nice moisture retentive, but doesn't stay too soggy, fairly airy. You can use something like Sunshine No. 4 or Pro Mix, they work very well. Some people talk about having to sterilize the mix. I've thankfully had great luck doing it with just a good clean mix. You know, you don't want to be recycling any soil, but not actually having to go through all the processes of sterilizing the soil. For the trays, I really love these garland trays that are coming out of England. They're really sturdy. They're meant to last year after year for greenhouse production. So if you can find them at your local garden center, I highly recommend them. They'll last you a long time. And they also have these little propagator lids. These are their budget propagator covers. They're fairly shallow, but they do the job really well. They have a slightly more expensive version that's a little bit taller, but I find these will suffice when it comes to the begonia cuttings. What we're looking for in a leaf to take a cutting from, we want something that's nice and mature, not too old, but we don't want a young leaf that's just unfurling and really soft and tender. We don't want one that's old enough it's starting to get, brown edges or a little bit tattered. We want something you can even sort of count down from the top of the plant, go down a few leaves. That's probably sufficient. On this plant, we've got some lovely, nice big leaves here. They're not too old, they're not too droopy. And what we can do is simply go in, find a nice healthy leaf, and I usually just cut down right near the base so that you don't have any unsightly little stem stubs left, and then we're left with a lovely leaf like this with some great veins on the back of it that'll work well for cuttings. Alright, so here we have that nice leaf. There are sort of two main types of leaf cuttings that we'll do. The first one involves the center portion, the stem here, and a little parasol left of the leaf itself. So what I'll do is cut this stem, roughly 1 inch to 1.5 inches, not much more than that. We can discard the long portion of the stem. What we're going to do is cut around here, leaving the stem and a little parasol, and then we'll also section up the leaf because any of these big thick veins will also work for setting little plantlets. So with this, I just take my scissors and cut around. Just end up with a little parasol left at the end, not too much leaf. That'll be our first cutting. Then I find the very edges of the leaf here don't tend to yield much in the way of viable little plants, so I usually just trim off any excess there. And then I continue to go around and I just cut the leaf into sections with 1 or 2 of those big thick veins. I'll go around here. Sometimes I find if the leaf is too long, I can cut off the tip. I find any of the really thin portions of the leaf may end up wilting over time or molding. That's cut up quite nicely. So what I'll do is start with our little stem cutting. I find these, aside from the rhizome cuttings where there's a little piece of the base of the plant involved, those work really quickly. These little leaf stem cuttings tend to be the second fastest to produce a nice plant. And I just tuck that in there right up to the top. Nice contact with the soil, and that'll start rooting. And then I'll just make a little furrow here with my chopstick. So you take the leaf, the outside portion of the leaf goes up. The portion that was where we cut the little parasol out of goes down. And you can just set those into the mix. You want to cover them with maybe about 1/4 inch of the potting mix at most. They just need to be held nice and firm, but they don't want to be buried deep in there. You can repeat that, do another little row here. And I find I put them in fairly close. They don't need a whole lot of room at this stage. What you'll want to watch for as these are rooting up is any signs that the leaf is starting to die or desiccate. If the leaf starts to turn brown or go moldy in any way, pull out any that are affected and just leave the others undisturbed. So you can continue on, fill the tray up with as many different cuttings as you want or need, and then just pop the little propagation dome on top. That'll help keep the moisture in. You are going to want to check in on them at least once a week to make sure they're sufficiently moist. If they're starting to dry out, you'll need to add a little moisture. It can be a misting from a spray bottle or just a small dribble of water out of a watering can, just to keep them damp but not wet. Over time, I've got some that I did here just a week or so ago. Nothing much has changed with them, but we've got a nice little rhizome cutting down here. This one's going to grow very quickly. It's already got some new leaves on it. It's going to send out roots fast and be a nice plant. Some full leaf cuttings of some small varieties where I didn't bother to trim them up at all. And then also some partial leaf cuttings of some bigger ones. They're doing well. You can see there's a little bit of humidity on the inside of the dome, so they're nice and moist. And if you leave those in a nice bright but indirectly lit area, I use a light cart with some T5 lights. In a couple months you'll have some nice little plants here. These ones I've got are Begonia Rex that were done a couple months back. They've all got 2 to 4 leaves on them now. They're a great size to get potted up into 4-inch pots, give them some food, and they'll quickly grow into nice big plants. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope that was helpful.